Hello viewers, so this is the second video in the series of the basics of economics, and the topic which I'm going to cover today, that is branches of economics. I'm glad to see the overwhelming response from my viewers, and as I'm also flooded with n number of topics for making videos, so I'll ensure that in near future all the topics are there in the form of video in my channel. So stay tuned, stay connected, and subscribe the channel, and you can also join me in my Telegram channel. The link of the Telegram channel is given in the description box. So let's begin our today's topic, that is branches of economics. Okay, now who is he? Yes, he is obviously one of the economists, but who is he? A renowned name, especially when we talk about econometrics, when we talk about the branches of economics. Yes, you are right. He is Ragnar Anton Keitel Frisch, and popularly known as Ragnar Frisch. He was a Norwegian economist and the co-recipient of the first Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Science in 1969. And he is the man who has coined those two branches of economics in 1933. So let us see what are those two branches of economics. So the first branch is microeconomics and the second branch is macroeconomics. Now we'll be discussing about these two branches of economics in upcoming slides. Yes, now first is the difference between macro and microeconomics. So I will be differentiating micro and macroeconomics on the basis of all these 12 aspects. If you will see it clockwise, starting with origin, gradually moving to definition, evolution, objectives, and covering all these different aspects, and concluding by proposed by, I will be covering the difference and you can say the meaning of micro and macroeconomics. So we can say that these two branches of economics are different from each other in even very basic aspects also. So starting with origin. See, both the terms microeconomics and macroeconomics have been originated by the Greek words. So this is the similarity. But what is the difference then? Yes, the difference is in the word. The microeconomics has been originated from a Greek word called micros. And the meaning of micros is small or millions of small parts. It means here in microeconomics, we talk about individual entity, individual firm. So here we talk about small entities or small units. Whereas macroeconomics, it has been originated again, as we said, with Greek word, and that Greek word is macros, and the meaning of macros is large. Large means the entire economy. In macroeconomics, we usually discuss about national income, employment rate, fiscal policies, monetary policies, and many things on you can say broader ground. So moving on to another aspect, that is definition. Microeconomics. This branch of economic studies the economic relationships and issues at individual level. Again, at a ground level. That is single identity, that may be any household, that may be any final consumer, that may be any single firm. Whereas macroeconomics, it studies the economic relationships and issues of an economy as a whole. Like the total consumption, saving, so on an aggregate basis we study the things here in macroeconomics. Moving on to evolution. When we see the evolution of microeconomics, so that has somewhere took place mostly before 18th century and obviously before macroeconomics. Why? Because we have started with small things and then only we moved on to the larger aspects. It means we have started with micro and then we have moved to macroeconomics. Whereas macroeconomics, its evolution took place only after the publication of Keynesian's book, that is the Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. So Keynesian plays a very important role, because only after the publication of this book, macroeconomics has become a popular term, or a term which is open for further research among economists. After evolution, next comes objective. So what are the objectives of micro and macro? Again, micro on a smaller ground, macro on a larger ground. So the basic objective of macroeconomics is better and the best, and or we can say the optimal allocation of resources. All kind of resources, all kind of production factors. So those should be optimally used, neither overused nor underused. That was the target, and that is the target of microeconomics. Whereas macroeconomics, it is to investigate the principal problems and policies relating to the achievement of full employment and expansion of productive capacity. Again, you must be noticing full employment, it means we are again talking about somewhere national income and the productivity, per capita income later on, and the overall economy. So again, macroeconomics covers the overall economy, how to improve it, whereas micro, again, on a very smaller ground, how to utilize production of factors properly. Now, microeconomics deals with consumers' equilibrium. And what is consumer equilibrium? So, consumer equilibrium is a kind of satisfaction level of that consumer, where he feels that he cannot change his condition either by earning more or by spending more or by changing the quantities of things he buys. It means there is a balanced state. So that microeconomics deals with. Whereas macroeconomics deals with the different kind of equilibriums happening in the overall economy. Now, what are the assumptions? Assumption for macroeconomics. While studying microeconomics, it is assumed that macro variables remains constant. Nothing is changing in macro world, we believe, while we are studying the individual identity or the single units. Whereas the vice versa situation is there in macroeconomics. It means when we are studying macroeconomics, we assume that all the variables in microeconomics are constant. Does this actually happens? So before understanding whether it happens or not, we should know what the variables are. So the variables in microeconomics basically are price, consumer demand, wages, rent, profit, firm's revenue, cost, etc. So it is again basically revolving around the individual consumer, his basic demand and supply role. So these are the variables. So when we are studying these, we feel nothing is changing in macro world. Now, whereas we study macroeconomics, so what are the variables? The variables in macroeconomics are aggregate demand, aggregate supply, inflation, poverty, unemployment rate, etc. It means, again, we are studying the whole market. We are again studying the whole economy. And when we are studying that, we feel all these individual level price and demand and supply, wage, and nothing is changing in that. Right? Now, so what plays the important role in microeconomics? In microeconomics, usually the market mechanism plays an important role. And what is this market mechanism? Market mechanism is basically the demand and supply in the market. Usually, two variables we focus on, that is P and Q, price and the quantity demanded. We'll be discussing that in upcoming videos. Whereas in macroeconomics, government plays a very important role. Fiscal policies, right? Government, you must be announcing, government is announcing so many changes in repo rate, reverse repo rate, CRR, and so many other things are there, and mostly are taken care by government. And yes, to support government, central bank also plays a very important role here. So again, a separate video will be made on this particular topic. This is one of the interesting topic. Must watch that upcoming video. Now, what are the approaches? Usually in microeconomics, that is bottom-up approach we are using to analyze the economy. Now, what is this bottom-up approach? Usually, this bottom-up approach begins at the specific level and moves to general level. It means we are starting with individual and moving gradually to the outside world. Whereas macroeconomics, it is having top to bottom approach, which is just reverse to the approach of microeconomics. It goes from general to specific, right? So we are seeing the overall economy, the overall market in aggregate form, and then we are narrowing it down to individual, right? So that is top bottom approach. Now, when we talk about theories, so in microeconomics, basically we are having these three theories, very important theories, and in macroeconomics we are having these important 5 theories, right? Obviously, I cannot cover that in this. There will be a separate video on all these theories. So I'm just reading those right now for you. So in microeconomics, theory of consumers' behavior and demand, theory of producers' behavior and supply, and the theory of price determination under different market conditions. So these theories are there in microeconomics. Again, if you will see it properly, then you will be seeing, again, these theories are revolving around demand and supply of an individual, right? Or a single identity, or again, bottom-up approach. In macroeconomics, usually the theory of national income, money, that GPL, employment, and theory of international trade. So it is a greater aspect, a bigger parlance, right? So here all the theories are there in macroeconomics. So both are varying from each other on the study of market also. Now, what are the limitations? As we have seen the basic introduction and gradually we are seeing the difference. So you must have come to know there are differences, there are some limitations. And what are those limitations, especially in microeconomics? See, as we feel when we are studying microeconomics, we assume that macroeconomics is constant or not changing. Does it actually happens? No. So it is completely unrealistic assumption, right? Another thing is we talk about optimal utilization of resources or allocation of resources, right? Or full employment. Is it practical? No. So this becomes the limitation when we are studying microeconomics. Now moving on to macroeconomics, that is fallacy of composition. And now what is this fallacy of composition? It is a kind of error where we assume that what is true for a single member of a group, it will be true for the whole group. Is it possible? Let's say you are studying about a tire of a car, which is made up of rubber. So do we actually see that the whole car is made of rubber? Right? So this is a simple or a single example just to tell you that this is actually not possible. This kind of fallacy of composition is actually wrong. So these are the limitations of micro and macroeconomics. And the last aspect is who has popularized these two branches. Now let me show you the picture first. This man is behind microeconomics. Who is he? I've already covered information about him in my previous video. Yes, you're very close. This economist is Alfred Marshall, who was the professor of political economy at Cambridge University and gave that welfare-oriented definition. Whereas macroeconomics was popularized by this man. And when I was covering that evolution of the branches of economics in this video only, then I told you the name of his book. Remember the name of the book? Yes, that was The Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. So who is he? He is John Maynard Keynes, who has contributed a lot in popularizing macroeconomics. So that's it for today. In this video, I will be covering another topics in my upcoming videos. So till then, maintain social distancing and stay safe.